What's that? Screams from the woods? Movement under the murky water? Something that startles you off the corner of your eye, but when you look, it's too late, you are gone? This is Cryptid Talk. Hello, my ghosts and ghouls, and welcome to a very special Halloween spooky episode of Cryptid Talk. I hope you're all ready for a very scary, spooky time tonight as we talk about cryptids that have been seen as a bit more on the scary side. Creatures that startle you to your very core. And hopefully, you will not be too scared to go out tonight. Yeah, okay. I definitely can't do that for the definitely can't do that for the entire thing. But yeah, so this is going to be, as the lovely narrator just said, a very spooky episode tonight of Cryptid Talk. A Halloween special, as you may say. This will actually come out on Halloween itself. So there will not be a Friday episode this week, but next week, I can look at this correctly. Next week, November 8th, we'll be going back to our regularly scheduled program of the podcast coming out on Fridays. But because, we're one day off, it's like, might as well have a little of a spooky episode along with all of this. So why not do it and have a little bit of a fun to talk about the scary side of Halloween and how spooky and scary it is. And how there are some things in the world that truly do go bump in the night and not just simple person wearing a costume. Okay. So if this is your first time, welcome. Hopefully, you're the new intro for at least this episode has caught your attention in some way, and hopefully it has made you want to stick around and to listen to more of it. I came up when I originally came up with the idea for the intro for this one. I'm like, all right, like a lot of things with me, I gotta write it down now because if I don't, I'm gonna forget about it later. And I'm glad I did because I'm like, all right, I gotta think of a spooky intro and like screams, like all the different new little extra added words to make it more sound more spooky and stay and scary and everything like that. And of course, whenever you have to do like you're doing anything Halloween or at least anything like trying to like spooky, you obviously got to do like the spooky Dracula or something voice along those lines. I mean, how can you not? Like it just seems like something that you want to think of a scary voice. You kind of do something along those lines. So obviously, of course, there are almost a lot of cryptids can be seen as very, very scary because they're not like the normal animals that we kind of deal with today, and some of them defy all logic of what should be possible. But there are a few in others that are a bit more extreme and scary. That's set other apart. Like Bigfoot, for an example. Yeah, sure. It is a in the grand scheme of things, yes, Bigfoot is a very dangerous animal. Definitely not a cuddly woodland friend. Sure, have there been times of them possibly doing some stories of some sort of generosity or kindness towards humans sometimes? Sure. Stories are very few and far between, but there are a few stories out there that I have heard that do depict them as that. And of course, then we have some others where the Bigfoot tries to scare you off. And I actually just watched the video. Unfortunately, there wasn't like a continuing video of it, but obviously the person woke up. But long story short, a guy was in a Bigfoot area, and he obviously knew they were there, and and then the Bigfoot didn't like him that he was there, and they were chucking things at him. Well, during the video, while this guy is recording and leaving the area, apparently one nails him in the head and knocks this guy clean out. Like you literally see him in the camera fall to the ground, and then you hear him snoring because a rock hit him in the right place and knocked him out. You hear some weird noises, but you don't really know for sure what's really going on. But so it's so and then now it's wonderful. And of course, there's stories of like Dog Man and stuff like that, where some people believe that some people who have gone missing have been might be acquainted to some, like cryptids, Dogman possibly being one of them, and probably some other mysterious ones that we may not be aware of or people like to accept. But today we've got a list of very particular spooky ones in general. Most of these you have probably heard. Maybe one, two of these you probably have not. One of them, if I don't know. One of them. I don't think it really deserves a full episode, but I think there's enough information here to make something interesting of it. And one of them, there is one thing on my list here that is kind of a bit more on the supernatural side of it, but because on how unnerving it is and scary, I had to mention it because it is what it is, and sure, yeah, it's not really much of a cryptid, but there are stories of it, and so it might as well talk about it because I think it would go really well with a spooky themed episode of the podcast and everything else like that. But before we start, if you're liking what you're hearing so far, please like, share, subscribe, and comment all that fun YouTubey stuff, and like let a friend know, like, hey, this guy talks about cryptid stuff. Give him a listen. Like, sweet, let's high five. And then you high five and everything like that, and everyone's all hunky dory. Follow the Facebook page, facebook.com/cryptidtalk. That's where I post updates and any other fun little shenanigans and stuff like that. There's also where I put polls for you, the listeners, picking the topics of future episodes. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, follow the Facebook page and keep an eye for future polls. I have no plan at the moment, but who knows? One might just pop up and be like, blam, here's your choices. Pick one. So, let's begin the very creepy episode. Ooh. All right. The voice might come back like once, probably maybe near the end, but that I won't be going crazy with it. Don't worry. So, Halloween. Halloween's always very fun holiday, especially in North America. In other parts of the world, is not as much celebrated, but of course, Halloween here, is like a huge time. All the trick or treating, the candy, the costumes, the parties, everyone actually choosing to be scared, to have their pants scared off, and everything else like that. I enjoy Halloween to a point. I'm not much of a fan of someone who goes out to try to be scared. I mean, I went to Dorney Park one time for their Fright Fest, and we went to like a little haunted house, little walk around thing. And it's not like I am a little bit of a chicken in some aspects, but for some reason for this, the guy just jumped out. I looked at him. I was like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" and everything like that. And I was just like, okay, let's get by here. But like other times I'm like, nope. I nope the heck out of there if I possibly can. So for all things spooky and Halloween, I think the first thing that comes to mind when I think of some sort of mysterious creature or legend or something along those lines, first thing that came to mind for me was vampires. Obviously everyone's heard of vampires at some point, especially, the king of the vampires himself, like Count Dracula. We've all have some way of heard about it in some form or fashion in movies. And like Dracula is in so many different things in media, video games, movies, books, of course, like the original vampire book, made by Bram Stoker's, who did Dracula, who wrote it itself. So obviously, Dracula is everywhere, all different movies and just everything. Dracula is I would probably say, out of like the original monsters of being like Dracula, Frankenstein, the werewolf, beast, the beast from the Beast in the Black Lagoon, all the different things. I would probably say like vampires and like Dracula are probably the most popular monster out there. I mean, especially if you've ever seen like the old movie of like Nosferatu and everything else like that. Like he's a creepy looking guy that they make him look. So I wouldn't like to. I wouldn't like to try hearing stories about that. Hold on a second. Girl one. Sorry, I'm making a note about something I want to talk about that I forgot to write down earlier. So yeah, so all right, but now why and of course vampires have vampires have the story itself has been around for a very long time. Of course, like the I guess that's more so like witches and stuff like that, but different parts of the world like Romania and Transylvania and all a bunch of other things have all have stories of like vampires. Even some places in we're not gonna get there yet. We'll get there soon. Don't worry. Shh, it's okay. Shh, we'll get there. We'll get there. Vampires have the legends of vampires are well known by so many people. You drive the wooden stake through their heart to kill them because they are the living undead. They die, but then come back as a blood-sucking vampire, here to feast on the living and suck out their souls, only appearing at night. But of course, if they are struck by the sunlight, they are evaporated instantly. What the heck is that? Sorry, I keep getting weird little sounds in Discord. I am not sure why I am getting all these. Is there a way for me to close this? Sorry, I'm trying to. I keep feeling like I'm getting these things about someone trying to call me, but I've got no thing saying anyone's calling me or anything like that. So sorry, just nope. Don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. All right. All right. Hopefully it doesn't do it anymore because I keep thinking that something's happening in the background. And of course, luckily for you all, none of you should be able to hear this. So thankfully, you should be like, "Whoa, what is that weird noise and stuff like that?" But hold on, let me try something real quick. Let's see if I can task manager and forcibly close this end task. All right, let's see if that does anything. Sorry about that. Continue. Oh. So yeah, and of course the stories of vampires can't be let in unless you invite them. They can't cross streams and running water. And of course garlic. And they bite someone's neck and then they can turn them into other vampires and everything else like that. So there's a lot of legends when it comes to vampires and stuff like that. How real are some of them? How how they've been changed in the stories to make them more terrifying? Like hard to say. Because of course like vampires go back like so long. I'm surprised I didn't write this down. Vampires. Vampires. Blah, 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 blah. How far back do vampires go? How far back in history do vampires go? Yeah, we've got the stories have been traced back to ancient Greece. There's old Russian text in 1047, and then we even got the first English news of vampires in 1732. So vampires are a thing that have been around for like all like a lot of different parts of all over the world. So of course like one of the I would pretty much say one of the first real like for this first real like impression or whatever you want to call it for vampires being is another very well known I guess conqueror person. I'm not sure what you would say, but anyone who's ever heard of vampires before in some way has heard of Vlad the Impaler. Now Vlad the Impaler was the ruler of Wallachia and or modern day Romania. And he was a very ruthless ruler, like to show by fear and mercy and not mercy, but like just very 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 God, what is the word for it? Not merciful, malicious. There we go. Very malicious of this showing of his power, where he would impale his victims onto stakes. We're going right through them from the bottom all the way up to their mouth and their head, which is impale them onto there and show his enemies, this is what I can do, Vlad the Impaler. And then then later on, he then got executed. Chink. No, not executed, but I think someone did murder him. And this happened around like early mid 1400s. I think it was around like 37, 47 or so, when right around when he died. So that's when like the first, and of course, like he was always been held. Like he really wasn't much more known for that. Like there were some stories of him somehow involved with blood, but more or less he was just very ruthless, and which a lot of people then inspired the stories of Dracula and Bram Stoker writing the story of Dracula and using the maliciousness of Vlad the Impaler to improve, to use as inspiration for his story. So obviously, very, very, very crazy, very dangerous man back in the day. I cannot imagine living those times. Like, man, let's take the guy. Let's put the guy through the stake. They're like, what? Look at this guy. I've got a little kebab, human kebab. Look at me, kind of thing. But of course, like, and then of course, like, a lot of things I've also seen like over the years of people who thought were vampires were buried in a very unique way, where some parts of their bodies were like body parts were cut off, but also like a metal rod and with like spikes was also inserted around their mouth and neck, to where if for any reason they ever did come back from the dead, that it would kill them again or hold them in place or something like that. I'm like, that is kind of crazy that it would do, for something like that. And these, of course, people who speculated that vampires, were real and stuff like that. Now, it's interesting enough that there are stories of vampires here in North America. Originally enough, a lot of vampire stories actually do come from the South, like New Orleans. I have not been able to find this for the life of me. Maybe the listeners can help. There was originally I thought it was Monster Quest, but it might have been someone else. Oh, you know what? It could have been Lost Tapes. Okay, but regardless, let me say what I need to say, and then we'll go from there. I remember there was a story of, I guess, a little show, like one of those kind of shows. Obviously, Lost Tapes was something a little bit differently, but one of those shows trying to talk about the real history of vampires in North America, especially in the South around New Orleans, where there was apparently, like, I don't believe this footage was real, but you see like this person like jumping off from a building and then flying off. I'm pretty sure that might have been fake, but there are stories, even modern day stories, of young women, leaving the bars or going between places late at night and being tranced in like alleyways by a very gorgeous man. Some days, sometimes they are able to free themselves or someone frees them, or some people say they have fallen victims to some of these vampires. And it's not just a one-off story. There's even modern day accounts today of people talking about vampires and everything else like that, to where I even thought, like, okay, I want to look back a little bit, and found out that there were actually, hold on a second, vampires in New Orleans. Goodness gracious, if I can spell New Orleans. There we go. Here we go. So there are apparently actually just in just the New Orleans urban legends in general, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about like 4 or 5 stories right here of vampires in New Orleans. One of them is of the Carter brothers. In the 1930s, 2 dock workers were executed for kidnapping and drinking the blood of young girls. Their bodies, so unfortunately, they were caught, but of course they were then executed and stuff like that. Unfortunately, though, their bodies disappeared from the tombs, and as far as people are aware, their bodies were never found. So that kind of goes more of the story of of them like being maybe actually being the undead, being real vampires. Because again, the story is that normally you can only kill a vampire through sunlight or putting a stake through its heart. Any other ways is not permanent or for sure. But that's always been like the go-to, and that ends it all kind of thing. So, and that's a very unfortunate but interesting story. They had like these two dock workers who would do this. And so let's pause a little bit. So I forgot. I also remember there's a woman who was really well known for bathing in the blood of young women to feel like it like if it like made her feel younger. So the one thing that fueled the vampire legends of their mystical powers and everything else like that, especially anything that involved blood, was that they would drink the blood or bathe in it to rejuvenate themselves, especially if they were young women. Young women had apparently very rejuvenating blood that they would bathe in it, and it would make and it would rehydrate their skin and make them young and beautiful forever and forever. So that's why so often they would have to go and kill some more to rejuvenate themselves. So, and apparently that's kind of the same thing today, where with stories of vampires drinking blood to to not more just more sustain themselves, but keep them alive for much longer. Now there are even Monster Quest did do an episode on vampires. One person saying that they were a vampire and that they didn't really drink blood, but they like from people, but they found other ways of sustaining it. While some people believe they are energy vampires, that they steal like the life force, and not necessarily your life force, but just every human has like a natural energy around them, and they kind of not like some say they kind of like steal it, but some say they just like borrow it or just like kind of just walk by a little bit. Kind of like if you're drinking from a water fountain, you're obviously not going to drink all the water, but you're kind of just like being nearby and just like taking it in a little bit what you need and then moving on with your life. Obviously those stories are like who knows for sure, because when they talked about a Monster Quest, they didn't find anything different about any of them. But who knows? Maybe if that is true, maybe modern science can't track that, or would have maybe some other tactic would be needed, or something like that. Who knows? All right. So what else we got? The Count of the Count of Saint Germain, a mysterious figure who claimed to be a descendant of the original Count of Saint Germain. Stories of his home contain bloodstained clothes and bottled human blood. Ooh, very scary about that. They're accusing vampires. Okay. So yeah, there's always New Orleans just seems to be very being very like vampire central for out of any part of the U.S. It seems. I mean, sure, could there have been other vampires in other parts of the U.S. and stuff like that, but being not be as well known? Sure, but just something about New Orleans just seems to be very into the whole vampire scene more than any other part of the U.S. And I find that pretty interesting too. So, do I believe that vampires are still around us today? Possibly. Who knows? I mean, I'm sure obviously some things in vampires have obviously been, like kind of like the witches from the Salem witch trial. Who knows? I I believe there is magic in the world. Whether or not the magic is as people have described it to be able to do what it can, or is it something else more? Just like it's like a science that we just don't understand yet. But I don't know. I think there are some sort of witches in the world. Oh yeah, so yeah, going back to like the Salem witch trials, like a lot of people were accused of being witches without any real evidence, just like some misunderstanding or a woman being much smarter than the rest, knew how to read and science, and like witch, everything. Probably the same idea with vampires. Like if they didn't think that they were, they were different, or they saw them doing something strange, they're like vampire, kind of thing. I'll even admit my one neighbors when they first moved in, I feel like for like a week or two, maybe 3, I feel like I never saw them outside, and it was only during the daytime, only at night. And part of me was like funny thinking like, huh, it would be funny if they were vampires because I only ever saw them at night. But then of course, I then started seeing them during the day. I'm like, oh, okay, there they are, kind of thing. So some little funny thing. Obviously, they're not real. They weren't vampires, but I don't know. Like, mm, hold on. I don't want to say this just yet. 1 second. I know. And have strings of okay. Something I want to say later at the end of all this. So, vampires are obviously very scary, very spooky, and obviously probably one of the most well-known like Halloween monsters of all time. Now we're gonna go into a topic that I put up as a poll, and who knows, maybe I could maybe make an episode of this, but I think for just what it is, we'll do what we can with it, and just go from there. So the next one we're gonna talk about are pale crawlers. Now, pale crawlers are a very interesting cryptid. For a lot of people, people might know it as more to them as like the rake, like the creepy pasta, and like that one person who supposedly got a rake on camera, on a trail camera. It's a very interesting picture, and I can't say for sure if it is real, because if it is real, that person, the makeup and everything like that is very well done, and hard to say. But what is a pale crawler? Well, as the name kind of implies, it is a pale, white-skinned creature with long legs and long arms. So sometimes supposedly with sharp teeth, and these just black eyes are just like little like crevices where eyes should be, and just like these dark like little pits. Also being seen as something that's very strong and very fast for its description. Because a lot of times when people see it, they just see it as more as of a not as much as like just like very shriveled up, like you see its ribs. It looks very malnourished, and like it looks like it shouldn't be alive with how like how little food it looks like how malnourished it is. But then when people see it move, when they see how strong it is, that like it moves so much faster and so much and is so much stronger than the malnourished state that it looks like it to be in. So it's like there are stories of there's some possible videos and pictures out there of possible pale crawlers. The descriptions of them are very similar to kind of what skinwalkers look like in a way. So it could be like it could be like these skinwalkers some of these are being misinterpreted as pale crawlers, or some of these pale crawlers being misinterpreted as skinwalkers, kind of thing. Some descriptions are pretty similar, but pale crawlers are normally always seen in a very similar way, just as their name describes, these very pale looking creature and stuff like that. Now, what could a pale crawler be? I have no I have no clue. A lot of people's depictions of pale crawlers could be like, okay, well maybe pale crawlers are some sort of of alien, because the description of them, they definitely do seem very very alien, and like obviously because doesn't how they look and everything else like that. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they were skinwalker or were aliens in some way. Okay, I'm going back real quick to like some like the video. There are some videos that people have had these very strange looking creatures, and like there's one video of someone that got like some weird like creature on top of their house, but as soon as the moment the creature is noticed by the camera, it dives and ducks down. Now the crazy thing about this video is that its eyes glow when the light hits it. Now, eyes only glow if their eyes were naturally, like, adapted for the dark. So if you were to shine your eye, shine a flash onto a human's eyes, our eyes don't really glow because I don't know, the corneas, the retinas, or something back there, makes them glow. But since we are not, used to that, our eyes obviously don't do it, and so that's why when you flash light in someone's eyes, it just blinds them and hurts them instead of more just being like, oh wait, what's up, kind of thing. Sure, like humans can see in the dark to a point. Like if you fun fact, if you ever wondered why pirates, wear an eye patch, a lot of people thought that the eye patch was used to cover up like some sort of injury, like a lost eye or something like that. Actually, no. The real reason behind that is because they needed one eye to be able to do everything during the day, and then when it started getting dark, they swapped the eye patch over to the other eye, and the eye that was under the eye patch has already been adapted to the dark and can see out in the dark instantaneously. So so they're able to adapt a lot quicker when nighttime comes. Kind of a fun fact, I really didn't know that until like some years ago, or I think it was actually on MythBusters. They tested that myth on it, and it actually worked. It was very surprising. They were able to see a lot better, like just from like a quick moving over the eye patch and opening with the eye that's been under the eye patch the entire time. They were able to see in the dark, no problem. No need for adjustment or anything else like that. So obviously that's what we need. That's what us humans need to do that. But since our eyes are not adapted and light gets onto it, they don't shine. But this thing shines. And a lot of a few other stories of people seeing like these pale creatures. A lot of times them always being like this little screeching, kind of thing. Even supposedly some stories. Now I don't know these are all the same thing, but I've seen some weird videos of things like sewer drains and stuff like that, and some of them seem like they're like 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 groaning like pigs, like go or something like that. I can't even. Oh, that hurt my voice just doing that. But yeah, so there's very like, just weird noises, and as much as like now there aren't a lot of stories of them, really being like attacking people, but there have been seen to be aggressive. So be careful out there and stuff like that. Now, there are stories of pale crawlers everywhere, all over the world. These things are freaking everywhere. What are they exactly? Who knows? Are they aliens? Are they some sort of subterranean creature that's been around for like has just been around here for years and years? They've only just become relevant over the past few years, maybe. Like here, let's go over some confirmed sightings that people have said of these creatures. Quote: June 14th, 2008, near a forested area in Higgins Lake, Michigan, in which two unnamed men were injured and one was killed. Police passed it off as a bear attack officially. The validity of the bear attack is unlikely, as video that has since been lost was shown to have disproved that theory. So apparently there was video of this attack, but now apparently the video doesn't exist or is gone. So whatever evidence that's on there that disproved the whole that they were bear. Oh, that's a good one. I should have done that one. All right, maybe next week. July 23rd, 2013. In upstate New York near Niagara, a crawler was seen by a park ranger who would lose his job due to unruly conduct, poor mental capability, and inability to distinguish reality from fiction. The crawler was caught on camera, but the Rangers service confiscated as official evidence. So again, other possible footage of a crawler that may have proved it a bit more better, but obviously, park rangers and stuff in the forestry service, in some cases, try to hide evidence like this, trying to not scare people off from coming and enjoying the woods. And here another one. April 19th, 2022. Near Elkhorn, Wisconsin, a sighting of a possible crawler occurred on an intersection of Tell and Bray. Due to its location, it has been debated whether or not it was the crawler or the Beast of Bray Road. So it is around the same area. Elkhorn, Wisconsin is, around where Beast of Bray Road. So Who knows? Maybe. And of course, there's some unconfirmed sightings and stuff like that. And there's other stories I've heard, even some people in the military who have seen some sort of pale crawlers, and have gotten a very good look at it and saw this creature. So pale crawlers, to me, they exist. Where what are they? Who knows? But their unique ability to look so feeble and so weak, and yet are so strong and power and so strong and fast. Definitely not something to be forced to be reckoned with, but definitely something to just be mindful of and stuff like that. And just especially if you're ever out in the woods. But definitely interesting. Nonetheless, I personally believe that crawlers are real, but that's for me. That's for me to know. That's for me to know myself, and for you to decide for yourself. So next one, we're going to kind of go back a little bit to a classic monster. Now, this isn't going to be like movies and everything like that depict them, but we're actually be talking about a little. No, there's not much, but from what I do have here, what we're going to talk about, mummies. So a lot. I personally don't believe that like modern day, that mummies come to life and are just the walking corpses that they are and stuff like that, and like movies and stuff like that. Ugh, sorry. Ugh, oh, that was a big one. But it's interesting though, obviously, because everyone knows that mummies do exist. So and obviously, and I'm obviously talking that, and I'm saying now mummies don't really walk around, stuff like that. It's like, well, why am I talking about them? So who's to say? Because maybe curses kind of go along the same thing as like magic, of being like it's a science that we just don't understand yet, or we have lost touch of, and have separated us from it. So I want to read a story of, this is a book I got from Kentucky and Cryptid Con, which I'll be there. I'll be there this year. Hold on, let's go to the little thingy real quick. From November 21st to November 25th, I will be in Kentucky for CryptidCon in Lexington, Kentucky. So for any reason anyone is going there, let me know in the comments down below. Anyhow, so I got this book here a few years ago, and I was reading through it. There's a lot of interesting stuff. This was where I found about those possible cave dragons under Yellowstone when we had the dragon episode a few things ago. A lot of stuff I knew about and everything. But this one I didn't know about. This was another one I didn't know about, like a dragon, and I thought was very interesting. And it's a short page, but I would like to read it all to you. Death Valley National Park is already one of those most unique and dramatic landscapes in the world. So who should it all be that surprising that the region may have once been home to giants? If the tales of archaeological explorers Dr. F. Bruce Russell and Dr. Daniel S. Bouvier, have any truth to them, then this region indeed inhabited by prehistoric Americans who stood 8 to 9 feet tall. The Death Valley mummy story arose from two early 20th century archaeologists and miners who were exploring Death Valley in 1931. They fell through a loose soil while sinking a mining shaft and landed, somewhat bruised, in an abandoned cave system. But as if the previously undiscovered caves were not already an exciting enough find, the caves contained the mummified remains of three giant men, looming ancients that stood 2 to 3 feet taller than the average man. Dr. Russell and Bouvet left the caves and returned with a team of explorers, diggers, and prospectors. However, the ever-shifting sands of Death Valley had already hidden the cave entrance, and explorers never again found the caves that they contained the mummified giants. So these two explorers found possible giant mummies. And this was all that was really explained about it. Like anything else I tried looking up beforehand really didn't give much. But for all who don't know where Death Valley is in California. And Death Valley is known to be Hottest place in the world. Oh yeah, I got this book in 2020. Cool. Yeah, so it is one of the hottest places, or not that was the date, not the year. One of the hottest places in the world. Actually, no, just for the heck, just for the fun of it, uh, Death Valley temperature. So yeah, obviously, with it being fall, the temperature is pretty normal right now. But some of the see, July of 2020, July 7th, 2024, this year, it reached a staggering 129 degrees. That is insane. For me, I think like 90 to 100, and with the humidity is high enough, I cannot imagine being 129-degree weather in any parts of the world. Because I know there are places that are like that and everything. And of course, Death Valley, it's just in a lot of parts it's just so flat and everything, and it is just not a fun place. So it's very interesting that these two men found possible giant mummified remains of giants that were 8 to 9 feet tall. Very interesting too, because like they it kind of goes along with kind of what I talked about last week with the Bigfoot, our third Bigfoot episode, where Native Americans told stories of giant tribes, like giant humans, and then like the giant hairy tribes, the ones they tried to stay away from a lot of the times. And so here's another story of possible giant mummies and giant mummified remains and stuff like that. Do these have any equivalency to these giant tribe Native American stories? Who knows? Unfortunately, it didn't seem they were able to really examine the bodies well, because it would have been interesting if they kind of went along with the whole theory of these things had like the 2 rows of teeth or any other interesting features that some other modern giant remains have been told about, to see if they matched it at all. And of course, being an area like that, all hot and everything, that would be able to preserve the bodies much better than in a cold or moist, or at least a moist environment. But it being hot like that, it would be able to petrify the bodies a lot better. So very, of course, and there are. I've also seen possible other old pictures of ancient mummified giants and giant skeletons and stuff like that. So I believe there are a lot more interesting things when it comes to giants in the world, but regarding to the mummies, obviously mummies naturally don't move around and stuff like that. Normally they're dead when they're mummies, they're dead, they're dead. But I definitely find this one interesting because of it being just like just a giant mummy in Death Valley, but unfortunately would never be able to find again. Now I'm hoping that someone somewhere still has interest in this story, even if it's almost 100 years since then. I'm hoping someone still has some interest in it and would like to find these giants, find these caves, and see if they can be proven. That'd be very cool, and hopefully they can figure it out. I would really hope they can. So obviously, mummies are always very scary and spooky and always fun for sure. So this next one's pretty creepy, but and again, this was the supernatural one that I was talking about earlier, and there are stories about it, so I think there is definitely something about it. But we'll be talking about black-eyed children. Now, if you haven't heard before, black-eyed children is I guess we'll call it a phenomenon for now of you're driving late at night, sometimes in a remote area, sometimes not. Sometimes you just be at a gas station or along the side of a street or something like that, and all of a sudden these young kids would come up to your car, sometimes between the ages of like 7 and 12, you know, sometimes wearing hats or hoodies. We can't really see their faces well. They're like, "Hey, mister, can you let us into your car or let us into your house?" A lot of times it's always car, but there are a few stories of them, the house. And so you have the young the children asking like, "Hey, can you listen to your car? We need help finding our dog," or something, summing up some sort of excuse. Some people are about to or think like, "Oh, yeah, sure, I'll help you out," stuff like that. But then moments they stop. they stop when they realize, and they get a good look at the so-called kids' faces and see that they are black, pure pitch black. Not like, like they don't have any eyes or anything like that, but their eyes are just solid black, which then all of a sudden then makes the people stop what they were doing and lock the doors or whatever and everything like that. But then, of course, then once they realize that the adult, and a lot of times, always like these kids are always asking adults, or when they're not gonna let them in, they're like, "Come on, man, let us in." They start like banging on the door and like yelling. They're like, I can't get in the car." Like sometimes there's even like multiple, but sometimes there's one or a few. They're like, "Oh, I can't come in unless you invite me in," kind of thing. So it seems, and then of course, then people, get a little terrified and then drive off, or lock their doors or whatever. So it's Oh wait, I forgot about this. All right, okay, hold on. Sorry, we gotta rewind a little bit back to vampires real quick. Rewind. I also forgot there was a modern day story within the past few years of a person of a young girl or young child possibly had an encounter with a young female vampire. And the young female vampire kind of hid in the woods a little bit, but asked if the child wanted to play. And obviously the kid was like, "Oh, no, no thanks, I'm good," everything like that. And then, then one night hears a knocking on their window, and realizing they're a little confused, there's no trees near the windows, and they're on the second floor. They then go and then see this girl that they saw earlier floating there, tapping on the window, be like, "Hi, can you let me in? I can't let you in unless you let me," kind of thing. And obviously, child being terrified, says no, closes the window, and goes away. Well, after the so-called, and of course, they know the floating child, hangs there and stuff like that. But then, of course, once they realize it's gone, the child goes to the window, opens it, looks outside, and sees there are three pairs of eyes staring at them through the wood. One smaller and two taller. Obviously, one of the taller ones taller than the other. So, like the child, the mom, and the dad. And so, very creepy story that was set to I've read within the past few years. So, okay, going back real quick. So it kind of goes back to the whole thing of how vampires had this whole thing of like they can't a lot of the times they can't come inside unless you invite them in. And of course, we then start having these stories of black-eyed children being around the same thing. They can't come inside your car unless you let them in. And that's when they start getting aggressive and stuff like that. Now, why do they want to get into people's houses and cars? What do they plan to do? I don't know. Most cases when with a lot of these stories, people talking about it, they never let the kid in, and they're able to tell the story afterwards. But it's kind of like in some cases with other things of other cryptids. How do we know that there haven't been stories of people who have let them in, and unfortunately the people were never heard from again? Like, we don't know. Like, you can't hear stories if there's no one there to tell it. So adds a little bit more of like a who know, like there's really not a whole lot of information about black-eyed children of like like what they are and stuff like that. We got some stories going back from like the 1980s, the early 1990s, like a bunch of other things like movies and film, like movies and stuff like that being made of them. But definitely something interesting for them for sure. And what their real motives are, like what do they plan to do when they get into someone's house or car, and like like what are they gonna do with the people? We don't know. I mean, most people, it's either one of those things: you either you don't let them in and you're good, or you do let them in and your chances of survival seem to apparently be zero, because there's only been stories of people who have seen them, been terrified, didn't let them in, and drove off. And then we haven't heard any stories of, "Oh, they got in my car and I was able to get away from them." No, we don't have those stories. So do we not have those stories because of people just never were heard from? We don't know, or no one has been dumb enough to do it and have realized it before they open the door, and seeing these black-eyed kids and be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," and then driving off like all hell. So, what are they? I mean, they obviously must be some sort of spirit or something. I really don't know. Like that's why I don't really talk about black eyed children that often, because to me they seem a bit more spiritual than anything more physical, but physical enough to where they can, like bang on the door of someone's car and stuff like that. And I, I don't know. Again, this might black eyed children might be an aspect of the world that we just don't understand. We can't understand yet, or don't understand anymore. Maybe we did at one point, but not now. I don't know. Are they the souls of dead children and they want to be have some sort? I don't know. Because a lot of times, sometimes they're always seen as very normal, just creepy. Like, oh, would you please let us in? Let me in. Or and then when they deny, they're like, come on, man, let me in. They get aggressive. It's like when you don't, follow their follow their request, their switch flips and they become very aggressive and scary. And then of course that's what people then drive off. So I don't know. Black eyed children are something that is very terrifying, and a lot of times are always seen as like hitchhikers along the side of the road and stuff like that. So I say this to all of you, especially, it mainly seems, there are some stories of them, coming to people's homes, but mainly while you're driving. Never let never really let any random person, especially these days, because it's hard to trust people. But never let strange random kids into your car that you find out in the middle of nowhere, or just sometimes in a local gas station. Take a good look at their eyes. If their eyes are black, do not let them into your car. They will not come in unless you give them permission. You just drive off and just nope the heck out of there. Nope, 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 nope. And that's all they hear from their little ghostly ears. They hear nope, 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 and then it just gets quieter as you drive away faster. Yeah, so be mindful out there, people. The next one is we got werewolves. Now, why am I talking about werewolves? We talked about Dogman before. Sure, Dogman, werewolves. How similar or different are they to each other? Hard to say. The stories of a man being cursed to turn into a howlish beast every full moon with an insatiable appetite for blood and flesh, and it kills all who it sees, whether it is friend or foe or family. Fair enough. There actually is apparently a werewolf movie coming out soon that I'm actually kind of curious about. I'm not much of a scary person, but the fact that kind of goes along with like the werewolf dogman kind of thing, it might be interesting. So I might give that a shot. If not, when it comes to streaming, give it a watch there. So what am I talking about werewolves? Well, who knows how different they are to dogmen? Are they the same? Are they different? Who knows? There have been a few stories that I've heard of people, of them being more like werewolves kind of thing, where these one hunters were allowed to be on this person's property, and one night they ran into what looked like a dogman like creature, dog stamped on two legs and had the body of a human but the head of a wolf. And during the encounter, the thing looked like it was going to attack them. They shot it, and it humbled away. It walked away, and then they booked it out of there. Well, apparently the next morning or so, the owner's son was apparently, or a family member was very upset. Like, you guys cannot come back here anymore. They're like, why? And then like they really didn't find out why. And then apparently a few weeks later, the old man that lived on the property apparently had died due to injuries. Now, I don't remember exactly how they found out, but apparently the injuries that the old man sustained was from bullet shots. So he was shot. And so, kind of interesting that they're on that property. They see like a dogman like creature. They shoot it. The owner's son or family member tells them, you can't come back here anymore, not given a reason why. So then all of a sudden, the old man, the owner, dies from bullet wounds. Kind of an interesting thing for sure. Now, obviously, I don't remember they said, oh, it was a full moon or, stuff like that. Like, maybe the full moon thing, maybe not always be a case if it is true kind of thing. But definitely something that like definitely makes you at least ponder and scratch your head going, huh, okay, that makes you think about it a little bit, or at least be like question a few things here and there. like a lot like is there a bit more to the story than that? Because people always tell stories, like Dogman, having the looks in their eyes seem a little bit more intelligence than just a simple mindless animal, and actually has like thought, and the stories of possibly like laughing and also things like that. So there's obviously a bit more to it that people really need to consider. And I think with Dogman and werewolves and everything like that, I are they both the same? Are they both different? Hard to say. Like a lot of times, for some people, they are able to shoot the dog man, and bullets a lot of times do nothing, and it just walks off, or it gets ticked off, and chases more. Some people do not survive. It's hard to say, but dogman, werewolves are obviously something that are how that maybe they're their own thing, or they're close to, or they are dogman. Who knows? But obviously werewolves have been a very well-known thing for like movies and stuff like that, like the werewolf, and because obviously the terrifying thing of werewolves is that it's kind of like vampires in a way that if they bite you, they can turn you into them. It's also kind of like lichens, like lycanthropy or lycanthropy or something, that the condition of being turned into a werewolf or something like that. And of course, being the original thing being with werewolves, that you can only kill them with silver, like a silver bullet or a silver knife or something like that. But of course, the thing that's terrifying about werewolves is that if you transform into one, you lose all sense of humanity and become a mindless killing machine and just attack everyone around you. Doesn't matter who they are. So that's a pretty terrifying thing about of a werewolf and everything. Now, again, like, what are werewolves? Like, if werewolves truly are the thing they say, that you transform into a beast either at a full moon or at some other conditions, and you just go on a rampage of some sort, then is that just part of the world of magic or of some ancient science that we just can't comprehend yet? And maybe this is just another part of it. Who knows? I When it comes werewolves, dogmen, I do truly believe that there is something more to it. What exactly they are, your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea. I would like to find out. I would love to know, but one day we will have to, we'll have to wait and see. Um, All right, so I did write down, skinwalkers and wendigos if we needed time for it, but I think we're doing pretty good with time, and I don't think we really need it, because skinwalkers and wendigos are terrifying enough as it is. And if you want to hear my talking about skinwalkers and wendigos, go back. I think it was episode 3. Go back then when we talk about skinwalkers and wendigos, and you get my 2 cents about it. But I will say this: even though a lot of these stories seem very far-fetched, of vampires, black-eyed children, werewolves, pale crawlers, these giant mummies, and even any cryptid, any monster story, as crazy as they may sound, from ancient stories of Egyptians having the heads of animals, and just like gods, helping them, create the pyramids and everything else like that. All legends have a fabric of truth behind them. They all there's all there. Some of it may be far fetched, some a little extravagant, but there is something more behind it than just a simple story. There's there is more behind. There's more truth behind it. What exactly that truth is, how far from the truth are some legends, hard to say. But every legend has some sort of truth to it. How much? Who's to say? But so you ever hear anything crazy or anything like that, be a bit more mindful of someone's stories, and don't be ready to throw it out the window just yet. And that's it. That's our spooky Halloween episode. I hope it didn't scare you too much, and hopefully you learned something, and of course, I hope you had fun. When Halloween was coming up, I was like, oh man, I gotta do a spooky episode and stuff like that. And of course, I gotta do the vampire voice, the spooky vampire voice and everything like that. So this was a lot of fun, and I hope you all enjoyed too. I hope you all have a very safe Halloween. And also, of course, remember, like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe my YouTube channel. All likes, comments, shares, all help me greatly. Helps me with the algorithm. Me get suggested to other people to follow and everything like that. So I hope everyone has a very good and safe Halloween. Again, be safe. There are some weird, crazy people out there, and watch your kids' candies because there are people who are, for some reason, like to hurt people and put things in people's candy. So just be mindful, be careful, and remember, keep your eyes and ears open for the creepiness in store, because you never know what you'll find outside of your creaking door. This has been Cryptid Talk with Michael Madden. Have a good day, everyone. Stay safe. Stay spooky.